everybody, my name is Sue and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to show you how I manage to store my dies. When I first started with dies, I only had a few. I kept them in a bin. As they grew, kept putting them in the bin, and then I started sorting them into different categories, perhaps my flowers, my animals, my birthdays. But as I got more and more dies, that became less useful. And I found that I wasn't able to find the dies when I wanted them. The plastic bags were splitting, dies were coming out, and I had to find another solution. So what I decided to do is use these folders. Now they're called Colour Hide, and I get them from Officeworks here in Australia. But the reason I get these particular folders is because they keep everything nice and safe. I'm going to show you in a moment. They've got a zip, and as I put the dies onto the sheets and in that folder, the zip keeps everything nice and neat and holds it together so that the pages don't fall out because they're quite heavy. So you can just barely see in the camera there, they've got a zip, they zip right around the outside and keep all those heavy pages of all my dies safe. So each page can hold many dies depending on the shape and the size, and that's how I store all my dies. The little folders with a magnetic sheet inside, stick on my dies, and they are there stored nice and neat. I've got 11 of these folders now, so if I was still storing these dies the old way, I would have boxes and boxes and boxes of them. Now, part of this solution entails a catalogue. Now, as you can see here, there's one that's escaped, so I'm just going to bring that back in. And I've actually drawn around all my dies, and the reason I do that is for this reason. And also when it comes to returning my dies, I know where they go. So as you can see, I've traced around the bell, and I know exactly where things go. So I'm going to show you in a moment. We'll take this away. I'm going to show you the current die storage page that I'm working on. It consists of a piece of cardstock with a piece of magnetic paper on the top, and I keep that in a binder wallet. So there's different types of binder wallets. They're quite thick and sturdy, and it's just so that it keeps it all safe. You know, they've got a bit of wiggle room. I actually prefer the other ones that are the expanding binder wallets, because I'm going to show you they've got a bit of a gusset, which just gives you a little bit more room, if I can get in, to keep your dies in there. You can see I'm opening up the gusset on the side, so there's a little bit more room and your dies don't come off your pages easily. So I do prefer those. They used to come in a 10-pack, which was cheaper, but now of course they only come in a 3-pack. So the magnetic paper, also I get that from Officeworks, and it's really just getting it there because it's convenient. So now here's the cardstock that I stick my magnetic paper on. It's quite important that it's quite hefty cardstock, because otherwise when you bend, you can see that the dies come off if you can bend that piece of magnetic paper too much. So I prefer to get some cardstock that's quite hefty. If I don't have any, I will stick 2 pieces of cardstock together. It just gives you a better finish. I'm just about to show you, I think, the thickness of that cardstock so that you can see it's almost chipboard thickness, and that just helps keep that stable. There you can see it's quite a thick. And I've used lots of packaging cardboard. I get random cardboard front and backs from different things, whatever works. So I do this regularly, because if I leave it until I've got a whole heap of dies, it takes forever. But the first thing I do is work out what fits onto the page, you know, my magnetic sheets, and I've worked out that those 3 fit quite nicely. Now, one of the first things I will do now is I will go over it with a paint pen and just mark the outline. It doesn't have to be exact or precise. I use these pens, and I'll show you those in a moment. I'm just tracing around the outside. Now, I do get a bit of paint of the paint pen on my die, but it doesn't seem to make a difference to anything. I haven't had it come off. If that bothers you, you can wipe it off as you go. It doesn't bother me at all. I use these pens, they're pretty colours, and I've learnt not to save my pretty things and to use them. So they're Life of Colour paint pens, and they're sort of nice pastel-y bright colours. I do like them. So just tracing around them here, I'm not really trying to be precise. This isn't meant to be pretty. It's really just meant to be functional. And this just shows me where my die is meant to go. And if I use a die and then bring it back, I know exactly when I found the right spot for it to go so that I can find it again next time. So just a quick outline. I did used to use what are they called? Permanent markers, the black ones, or different coloured ones, but they just would not write properly on that magnetic sheet. Now, then next thing I'm going to do is grab my white pen and just write a number. So I just follow the numbers. I think I was on 609, so that's 1610. This one's 1611 and 1612. And then I can put that aside because that's ready now to go back into that actual storage. Now, the second part of this process is my catalogue. And the catalogue is the way I work out or I look for my dies. All right, because it would take me forever to flip through all those books and to try and find the dies that I've got. So this is my catalogue, and I'm just showing you my list, and we've got lots of different, I have letters and then words, and then I separate things out like travel and school, and I have my categories that I use, and I use that in all my scrapbooking storage unless it's a kit. And it's just a way, if I'm scrapbooking and it's a travel photo I'm scrapbooking, I can go straight to the travel section and have a look and see what I've got there for me to use for travel. So this is the way that I set up my book. On top of those categories, I've also got all my dies in one spot, because sometimes I'm just looking for a die, but I don't know what die I'm looking for. So all my dies are together. So what you might find is that one die might be represented in 2 or 3 different places in my catalogue. It'll always be in the dies. It may be in beach, and it may also be in birthday, depending on what it is. So, for example, this is a uniquely creative die. I don't keep the whole packaging. I chop it off, and I just write the code from the back on there and what the die is called, and I will slip that into the back behind my sheet so that I know what die it is. Now, I never used to do this, but since I've been doing YouTube, people ask me what die it is. At least I can find that information out. So I've done 3 copies of this one. So one of them is for my dies, like in the die section. One will be in the happy birthday section, and one will be stored in the words section, because those are the 3 places I might look for this die. So what I do is I cut them out however many times I want to store them in the catalogue. Now, I don't use fancy paper. You can see that the colours clash, makes no sense, but really I'm just using my scrap paper. I don't save my small pieces of scrap paper to scrap with, but I certainly do use them to do my die catalogue. So I will shortly show you the pages of my catalogue. So each catalogue page has a heading so that I know what I'm looking for. I'm bringing that in now. So the first page that we're going to go through here, we're going to stick the happy birthday on the words, in the words section. So that's easy. We're going to stick it in the die section. That's easy. Stick that there. And then in the birthday section. So I'm going to glue one down and show you, just, glue however you want to glue it. I've found that the wet glue, like the Nuvo drops, work better than perhaps a glue stick. And it's sort of cheaper to use those than it is to use my tape runner, because there's lots of little bits often in dies. I'll just pop that down, hold it down so it sticks. Once you don't need to stick it perfectly well, because once you've put it in the plastic sleeve that I store these in, you're not going to knock it off. And then I just write the number of the die, and I put DS, because in my situation DS stands for die storage. All right, and I'll just label the other one as well and stick those on. And I'll show you too that I'll put the other two dies on the dies page. So they'll go there, and I'll label those as well. And then I've also got a nature. So I put all my animals and birds together. In hindsight, there's a lot in my nature section, but it still works for me. So then I'll just label those according to what I've done, and that's effectively the basis of what I do. I label, so when I put that into the plastic sleeve, I get my label maker and I will label each page with the number, and I will label the outside of the folder as to what's in that number so that when I go to look for my dies, I can find them. Anything to make it easier. So now I'm just showing you some examples of my catalogue. So in this catalogue, this is the beach section. See, I've got a beautiful die. So if I was looking for something to add to a beach page, I can see the die with the sunglasses. I have all my stamps in there as well. Beautiful bubbles, or some seahorses and some fish, surfboard. It's all there, easy for me to see if I'm doing a beach page. And that works for any of the categories. So for example, that watermelon, I would look up and then look up the number. I would go to the number in my catalogue and pull out the die. But in order to do that, what I normally do is I normally grab a small piece of magnetic paper, that I can see there that I've used it previously, and I actually write with my white pen the number that's on there so that I don't forget by the time I get to my die storage. And I write the number down. It's not writing very well on this piece, but it's there enough. So I'll write the number down, I'll go get my die, stick it on top of there so that I can take it to a crop or use it, but then the number's written on that piece of magnetic so that I know where to put it back. If worse comes to worse, I can always look up my catalogue to find the number, but that just saves me having to do that every single time. So I do hope that you've enjoyed this video and it's given you an idea on how you too can store your dies and stamps as well. And let me know if you've got a different way that works for you. I love hearing your comments. I love to respond, and I'm sure other people will be interested to hear how you store your dies. So lots of different, that's my boys section, robots and a tie and some different tools. Just is so easy when you're just doing a page and you want something extra to go on it. You might not always know what you want, but if you can go to a section and have a look, then it really gives you and helps you with ideas. I do think I need to stop buying dies though, because I have so many. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks.